All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to break down a really practical four-step model for making your speech sound more natural in a new language. And look, this isn't about memorizing more vocabulary. It's a blueprint, really, designed by an expert to physically retrain the habits of your mouth, your tongue, the whole shebang.
So, have you ever felt this way? I mean, you can read the language, you can write it, you've got a great vocabulary, but when you speak, something just feels off. Not quite natural. It is an incredibly common frustration for language learners, and it's exactly the problem we're going to tackle today.
And you know, this isn't just a beginner's problem. Not at all. This quote here is from G. Taha. He's the actual creator of the model we're looking at. Think about that. Even after teaching English for 10 years, he still felt that gap between knowing the language and speaking it naturally. So it was that personal struggle, plus his PhD in applied linguistics, that really pushed him to create a real targeted solution.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll touch on that accent frustration. Then, I'll introduce you to the BBPP model itself. And after that, we'll walk through each of the 4 steps: breathe, placement, blending, and pitch. Let's do this.
Right, so what's at the heart of this frustration? It's simple, really. Speaking naturally isn't about cramming more grammar rules into your head. It's about muscle memory. See, your mouth, your tongue, even the way you breathe, it's all been trained for years to speak your native language. So the real key isn't to learn more, it's to physically retrain those muscles for a new set of movements. So the big question is, how in the world do you retrain those muscles? Well, that's exactly where the BBPP model comes into play. G. Taha developed it during his doctoral work, and you can think of it as a toolkit designed specifically for mastering the physical act of speaking English.
So what do those letters, BBPP, actually stand for? It's breathe, placement, blending, and pitch. And notice something here? Not a single one of those is about grammar or vocab. It's a completely different way of looking at it, treating speech like a physical skill, which, when you think about it, is exactly what it is.
And honestly, that's the beauty of this whole system. It takes this huge, complex process of speaking naturally and boils it down to just 4. 4 simple, manageable steps you can actually practice. It makes the whole thing feel less overwhelming, you know? All right, let's start building this thing from the ground up. Step 1 is all about breathe and relax. I mean, this is the absolute foundation. You can't build a house on shaky ground, right? Same idea. You can't produce clear, controlled sounds if you're all tensed up and your breathing is shallow. Everything, and I mean everything, starts right here.
And what's kind of wild is that the first step has nothing to do with trying harder or tensing up. It's literally the opposite. The entire goal is just to get into a relaxed state so that the air can flow smoothly from your lungs. That airflow, that's the engine for your voice.
So how do you actually do this? Well, the model gives us 3 simple things to focus on. First, breathe from your diaphragm. You know, that deep belly breathing? That's what supports your voice. Second, just take a second to notice your tongue and consciously relax it. And third, make sure your jaw is loose, not tight and clenched. Seriously, try it for a second. Feel that? That's the feeling you're aiming for. That's your home base.
Okay, so once you've got that nice, relaxed, supported breath going, now we can move on to the mechanics. Step 2, placement. This is all about precision. It's about how you use your mouth, your teeth, and your tongue to shape that airflow into specific English sounds.
Believe it or not, English has around 44 distinct sounds, or phonemes, and every single one has a very specific home in your mouth, a place where it's made. Is your tongue touching just behind your teeth? Are your lips supposed to be rounded? Getting this placement right is the difference between saying ship and sheep. And as you can imagine, that's kind of crucial for being understood.
And this is where that muscle memory from your first language really kicks in and can create some challenges. For example, that classic English R versus L sound can be really tricky for speakers of many East Asian languages. And the th sound, that's actually pretty rare in languages around the world. So the idea here is to figure out what your specific tricky sounds are and zero in on practicing those.
Okay, so you've got your breath, check. You can make the individual sounds accurately, check. What's next? Well, now we have to put them all together. That brings us to step 3, blending and rhythm. This is where we stop thinking about single sounds like they're separate beads and start stringing them together to create the real music and flow of English. And this next part is a huge game changer for a lot of people. See, many languages like Spanish or French are syllable timed. That means every syllable gets about the same amount of time, kind of like a metronome, da, 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 da. But English, it's stress timed. We stretch out the important syllables, and then we squish and rush through the unimportant ones. It creates this totally different, almost wave-like rhythm. And honestly, not getting this is a big reason why speech can sometimes sound a little robotic or, I don't know, like a machine gun. So the model gives us a really clear way to practice this. First, you just listen for the main stressed word in a sentence or phrase. Then you intentionally make the vowel sound in that word longer and stronger. And at the same time, you kind of weaken and rush through the little words around it. It's this constant push and pull, this stretching and squishing that creates that natural rhythm of English. All right, we are almost there. We've got our foundation with breath, we've got our building blocks with placement, and we've connected them with rhythm. The final crucial layer, the icing on the cake, if you will, is step 4, pitch and melody. This is what breathes life and emotion into your words and keeps you from sounding flat or robotic. Pitch is really where so much of the hidden meaning in speech lies. It's all about making your tone match your message. Just think about this for a second. If I say, "You're going to the store," that's a statement. But if I say, "You're going to the store," see, the words are exactly the same, but that little change in melody, in pitch, changes the entire meaning. That's the power of this step. So how do you practice this? You basically have to become a better listener. Start paying attention to the music of English when you hear people speak. Notice how the pitch goes up for a yes or no question, but it goes down at the end of a statement. Your goal is to start making sure that the music your voice is making actually matches the story you're trying to tell. So let's just pull this all together for a second. The BBP model gives you a complete roadmap. You start with your breath to relax and power your voice. Then you use correct placement to form the sounds. After that, you connect everything with blending and rhythm. And finally, you add the pitch and melody to bring it all to life. See how each step just builds right on top of the last one? It's a really solid system. Look, this isn't just some abstract theory. It's a practical toolkit. So as you look at these 4 steps, breathe, placement, blending, and pitch, the real question I have for you is, which one jumps out? Where do you think your biggest opportunity is? What's the one thing you could start working on like right now that would make the biggest difference for you?